Good morning. Welcome to week 6. Valentine's Day is this one. However, of course, this week ends on the 13th. So it's actually for the following week. So this kind of gets you a head start. So that's one of the things I love about this is week 6 kind of gives you a precursor of how to prepare so that you're not blindsided on Valentine's Day. So as I was reading through, reviewing this week, one of the things that she does is she gives this wonderful story about what she was asked to do with her women's Bible study, where they decided to be their husband's secret pals. And so for weeks leading up to Valentine's Day, they would leave these little secret notes or gifts or things of that nature for their husbands. And the idea was just to bless their husbands. And she says, unfortunately, I started keeping score. How many of us have done that? Kept score? Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. So it kind of hits home when you think about that stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to set myself up for failure. I'm not going to do that for myself. The moral she came up with, is don't give a gift expecting to get something in return. And I totally agree with that. A gift is just that. It's something that you have released from your hands. Of course, it'd be awesome if they displayed that picture or that item that you made for everybody to see. But at the end of the day, their home is their domain. However they choose to display that item, if they even like it, is completely up to them. So if it's a gift, you got to let it go. So just kind of think of it that way. I'll go into a personal story a little bit later. But she had something called these ideas. Here are a few ideas for surprising your family this Valentine's Day. And I was laughing at some of these because I'm like, there is no way I would do this for one reason or another. She says, sneak into their rooms in the dark of night and leave a bag of treats by their bed. And I'm thinking, candy in the room? Absolutely not. I did not. That was one of our rules. No food in the bedroom. She says, tint the breakfast oatmeal pink. Throw in a few red cinnamon candies. And this reminded me of a story my father shared with us. My mother, she is such a sweet woman. I love my mom so much. At one point, she had actually for Valentine's Day, she would dye things red. At St. Patrick's Day, she would dye things green. And my understanding, she even did that with his underwear sometimes. His underwear and his t-shirts, yeah, I think she did, and turned them red, turned them green. Or maybe that was the accident. But I remember one St. Patrick's Day, her dyeing the mashed potatoes green, and I was like, no, thank you. It just was not appealing to me. I thought that was cute, but I'm like, there's no way I would do this because I think of that funny story about my mom. And then she says, tuck a surprise Valentine into a cereal box or ice cream carton and reclose with stealth. That's a cute idea, but we didn't eat many processed foods, so I was like, well, that wouldn't work. And then another one was tie a red balloon to each person's kitchen chair, and all I could think of is Pennywise right now because that's out again. Another thing, it's just one of those things I'm like, oh, couldn't do that. One was, using a coffee filter, write a love note to your husband. I'm like, well, use a Keurig. But she had some really cute things in there. One of them was secretly tape your dinner conversation and send it to a relative, like a grandmother that's far away. And I'm thinking, probably not our conversations. I probably wouldn't do that. Just because you just never know where it's going to go. My kids are older. It's not sometimes they're not as innocent as they used to be. But really cute ideas. There's so many ideas out there you can do. There's something new that came up I think it was February 13th, 2010, or it was in 2010 that this came up on a TV show called Parks and Recreation. It's called Valentine's Day. And it's declaring your love and affection to the girls who make up your support system. So that's pretty awesome. Us as homemakers, maybe that's where your Valentines need to be focused on. Your our husbands aren't always that romantic kind that want to do that. And honestly, Valentine's isn't a big deal to me as far as the romance goes. To me, it's about loving others. So that's the spin I put on it for my family. But what's the spin you put on it for your family? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. But yeah, for me, it's just like, no, it's not a romantic thing for me. It's a fun, me showing my love for other people, and again, as a gift. Something else to keep in mind is it's not just Valentine's Day on February 14th. It is actually National Donor Day. So this is an awesome opportunity if you are not an organ or tissue donor. They do signups, like it's usually February is a big month for them to get signups so that you could become an organ or tissue donor. There are many blood and blood marrow drives going on, and of course our children are too young to do those things. However, they might be able to volunteer. You might be able to volunteer for one of those things. Now, social distancing right now, things are a little bit different, but keep that in mind for next year as a possibility. You could volunteer with your family for that. I am a living donor. That's what my pin is here, in case you were wondering. So this is where the personal story comes in. Years ago in our church, we were praying for a man who needed a liver transplant. It's a young man who needed a bone marrow transplant. And then there were 2 people in our church who needed kidney transplants. And we had a very supportive church. We were always praying for these people. And there was a point when I realized I should probably address this with this individual. So I would sing regularly on worship team. And this man would come up who needed the kidney. And he was so sweet. And, oh, Amber, your voice is so beautiful. It's like that of an angel. And, that blesses me. I love to sing. I don't like the sound of my voice. I'm sure there are people out there who don't like it, but many are blessed by it, and I'm thankful for that because I get asked to sing. So, love that. So, with that said, of course, that fed my ego a little bit, and I said, Dee, we're praying for you guys. However, I was wondering, is there something more we can do? Can you live without a kidney? So I had this great conversation with him. He informed me we have 2 kidneys, or most of us have 2 kidneys to start with. And yeah, you can live with just 1 kidney. So he explained to me that there's this process, and we had 3 young children at that time. And I said, well, maybe he was also an O. I think he was O negative, and he needed an O organ, and I happened to be O positive. And I said, well, then just kind of nonchalantly, well, I should go get tested and see if I'm your match. I didn't realize how impactful that was to him until he responded. And his eyes teared up and tears came down his face, and he said, Amber, you don't have to do that. You have young children. You do not have to do that. And I said, Dee, if this is what God wants me to do, who am I to say no? With that, went through the process, found out I was his match. Doesn't God have such an amazing sense of humor? I was his match. And it was the most selfless gift I feel that I have ever given. The impact on that donation reached so far. He had children come to the Lord. His wife is still a dear friend of mine. He has since passed. But my husband ended up being the match for the woman in our church who needed that kidney as well. Isn't that amusing? So here we are, 17 years later. We both donated a kidney. So between the 2 of us, we have a pair, but we each have 1. I have my left, he has his right. My goodness, what an amazing gift. There was at least 2 more kidney donations that spiraled from all of that. It was just kind of like understanding what needed to happen, that it wasn't so scary to go through the process of at least checking out to see if you could help someone in that way. So God works in profound ways. We also, our church was really big, and we did arranged a blood marrow drive. And unfortunately, none of us, I think there were 200 of us that went to be tested to see, or to be on the bone marrow transplant. And none of us, unfortunately, matched that young man who needed the bone marrow transplant. So that was sad. But again, I go back to, when you give a gift, don't expect anything in return. But honestly, to know and see how God's hand, that he allowed me to see that as so amazing. It's so amazing to see that. Another really neat thing for me, I live in Oregon, and Oregon was admitted to the Union on February 14th, 1859, and they were the 33rd state. So it's Oregon's birthday. So that could be an opportunity, another idea for your family to, instead of celebrating the romance part of Valentine's, celebrate your state if it happens to be their birthday. And I think Hawaii might also be February 14th. I could be wrong. I think for sure they came in 1959, 100 years after Oregon. So I don't know, I'll let you research that, see which other states might have been admitted on February 14th. We're back to doing some little cooking thing. And apparently the last time I did this was so long ago because I still have some of this left over, which I never use. So we're hoping it's still good. It's corn syrup. Does that ever go bad? So what we're doing is giant popcorn hearts, and it's asking for 20 cups of popcorn, and she's saying it took her about 6 of these. So what I'm doing is I am just popping that popcorn. I'm dumping it here in this bowl. And I'm doing that because the seeds will kind of settle at the bottom, and I'm separating them because I don't want that in my popcorn ball. And it also helps you, you know, take these kind out that are only partially popped. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll be right back. So she says to take that popcorn and put it in like your turkey roasting dish, like what you use at Thanksgiving. Well, thankfully I have 2 because this is only 3 of those, and so I have 2 that are like this, filled like this. Just, I have two ovens. What's it? I don't know what that's called. I can't remember what it's called. It's a dual oven, and I usually use the top oven. So I'm going to put this inside my oven. It wants me to set it at 200 degrees. That's to keep the popcorn warm. So when you go to mix it, it just all comes together. I'll be right back. Did you miss me? Because I'm back. So now what we're going to do is in our pot here, we are going to add some fine ingredients. So let me just kind of turn my stove on. I think I want this on low if I remember correctly. I'm going to try. Maybe this will be easier for you to see what I'm doing here. Let's use that guy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use 1 cup of sugar. We're going to put this in. You want this, they're saying, in a heavy 2-quart saucepan because you are using sugar. They want you to use 1 cup of light corn syrup. How exciting is that? Surprisingly, 1 teaspoon white vinegar. Let's see if I can keep this from being more than 1 tablespoon. Sorry, 1 tablespoon. We don't want to go too far on that. We're going to put that away. And it wants us to use 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we are just going to stir that until the mixture reaches 230 degrees on a candy thermometer. It takes about 5 minutes. And once it hits 230, we are going to add some butter. This is asking for 1/4 cup of butter. And after you add the butter, you're going to continue to cook this until it gets to about 260 degrees. So with that, I will see you in a minute. So there's a couple things. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is this has, if you want to add peanuts to it. I'm not putting peanuts in mine. I'm just keeping mine very simple. I've added my butter already, melted it. Now I'm adding these other items. It says to do it off of the heat, so I'm going to do that real quick. And then, oh boy, that bubbles beautifully. Now, they want us to put this over there. Now, I did not grease my roasting pans. Forgot that step. So I have over here put my put some wax paper down. Putting my popcorn on it. You can't see it right now. I don't want you to see the huge mess I'm making. Okay, fine, if you insist. So here we go. I'm just laying this all down. Now, butter your hands. I'm going to put this over to the side because I know I'm going to need that in a little bit. Oh, you might want to take jewelry off, but I'm not going to today because, you know, why would I do that? All right, immediately pour this over. Protect your countertop if you're going to do it this way, because this is one huge sticky mess. So as best you can, put it everywhere. Get water in that pan, and that is pure sugar. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of bring things up from the side. Use your spoon and start combining. This popcorn will shrink down. Remember those popcorn balls? So even though we started with what looked like 20 cups, it's not going to look like 20 cups shortly. So I'll be back after I'm done molding these into the shape I desire. Well, I think I'm done. I forgot how amazing this stuff tastes. So I'm going to show you. Now remember, I am not Martha Stewart, so no judgments. Yes, that is the mess I have left. Here are the popcorn balls that I decided were good enough. And so the key for me is you start just squishing it together and hold it. And sometimes it needs a second to take its shape. So yeah, I have a ton left over. I over popped popcorn just to make sure I had enough. But there's still some amazing stuff in here. So I don't know, it's a nice little snack. But yeah, the flavor. Prepared that this can be messy, but it's a whole lot of fun. Tastes so sweet, and it's neat to have kids involved in things like this. So blessings to you. I want to end today's sharing on something that C.S. Lewis wrote, and it is on my book. It's page 32, and it says, C.S. Lewis once said, "A housewife's work is surely in reality the most important work in the world. What do ships, railways, mines, cars, governments, etc. exist for except that people may be fed, warmed, and safe in their own homes? We wage war in order to have peace. We work in order to have leisure. We produce food in order to eat. So your job is the one for which all others exist." 1 John 3:16 says, "The truth about love, we know love by this, that he laid down his life for us." I pray that you have a blessed week, and I look forward to hearing about your ideas, what you do for your family, or how you celebrate Valentine's Day. Take care and be creative this year with COVID. Some of us can't even go into restaurants. Some of us have outdoor seating, but it's too cold, and even though it might be spring in some countries, where I'm at, we're still in winter. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Sunday.